My name is Ross Tavendale. I'm the Managing Director of Type A Media. You've joined us today in our London studio. We're broadcasting this all around the world, and today I'm joined with two incredible guests. First, we have Luis Navarrete. He is the head at Lego. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. So Luis, essentially, you define the search strategy and all the marketing activity for probably one of the most iconic toy brands in the world. Is that safe to say?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It says here you've got 14 years of experience in the industry, and that's cross-functional technology, business management, and leadership. So not a one-trick SEO pony by any stretch of the imagination.
I think so.
I'm very excited to see what your talk is later on. We're also here with Jerry White. He's an SEO and analytics consultant at Just Eat. Now, Jerry's focusing on technical marketing in particular and leads all of the SEO and analytics at Just Eat, in particular looking at the growth strategy and working interagencies to push things forward. Jerry, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Analytics at Just Eat, by the way.
You don't do the analytics. He's been demoted since he got here. All right, so Luis, today we're going to be talking about your title as a modern marketing department, 5 things agencies need to know about working with enterprise clients. And as an agency aspiring to get enterprise clients, I'm going to be taking notes. So over to you.
That's great. Look, something that I think about when I reflect on how agencies work with clients is that working on search with big corporate clients, enterprise level clients, is like going to outer space. There are a lot of people who talk about it, but there are not that many people who have actually done it. There are not that many people who even have been successful at working with enterprise level clients. And I was reflecting on why is that and what can we be done differently and what kind of advice would I give to myself when I was in the agency 10 years ago. So most of the stuff that we hear when we talk about how to work with enterprise clients still holds true. So it's about automation, it's about getting a scale, it's about voice search and innovation of search and on search. And there is a lot of project management. And even though all of that is still true, I think that we are missing maybe something else that we don't necessarily talk about. And that is why sometimes we don't have the full picture. And this is a good example of how we can really engage into those topics that what truly makes you successful in working with enterprise clients. And what I mean by being successful, I mean having a better relationship with your clients and being able to win more clients at an enterprise level. So let's see how can we work better with those types of clients. For me, one of the first things that we need to realize is that on an enterprise level company, search is not necessarily a channel. It's not that siloed in the sense that you do search and therefore it's all about SEO, it's all about paid search. Search for us is an experience. And what I mean by that is that search happens across multiple touch points that the customer has with us. There is a component that is traditional web search, everything that we know about SEO and paid search as we traditionally look at it, but there are many other touch points, like for instance, retail search, which is something that has grown exponentially over the last few years, particularly with Amazon. Now that most people start their product searches on Amazon, what is the search experience that they have there? And how you should come up with strategies on SEO and paid search in Amazon. Besides that, you still have video search on YouTube and other platforms, particularly if you work in APAC and China. And if your company happens to have a mobile app, then you need to think, well, how are we going to make sure that that app is discoverable on web search, on mobile app search, etc., etc. So that's what I mean by being an experience, right? And what does it mean for agencies? What it means is that there are untapped opportunities that maybe you can work with a client at an enterprise level. So mostly when we think about agencies working with clients, we think, all right, let's propose to do something SEO, let's propose to do a PPC campaign. But what about, for instance, Amazon search? And when it comes to Amazon SEO, it's a huge space there where there are not that many specialist agencies that are truly good at making sure that your products really become first for searches. And Amazon is a very dynamic marketplace right now in the way that they work from an SEO standpoint. So it's truly, truly interesting for agencies to just try to find those avenues where they can provide very specialist services to enterprise clients. If you look at Amazon paid search, that's another different kind of realm on what you can do for enterprise clients, right? This is a way that how I think about search in Amazon is there's a lot of branded searches that you can capture and you can drive short-term sales if you want to, but there is a huge space there for non-branded searches, generic search terms that might be on your category, and you might want to seize those. And I think that coming up with a strategy there, not only from a tactical perspective in terms of how you're going to run the campaign, but providing support to those enterprise clients in terms of how they should strategize paid search in Amazon, I think that is a gap there in the market that many agencies are probably not still taking. App Store optimization is another example, right, of how agencies can really work with enterprise clients. Has been there for years, but still there are not that many agencies that are truly specialized there. And I mean is that sometimes when agencies approaches us, they should be thinking on how can I make sure that I cover or I close those gaps that big clients might have. So the takeaway for me is just try to think outside the Google box, right? Try to think outside traditional web search and try to find those avenues that people are not covering. The second thought in terms of how agencies can work with clients is that you need to understand what is your client's agency structure. What do I mean by the client's agency structure? Look, if you think about a multinational company, there are so many levels, global, regional, and local markets, where they might work with different agencies. And in my experience, normally, those clients tend to work with three different setups, or one of three different setups. Either you have very different agencies per market, and each one of the local countries where you operate works with their own local agency. You might have regional, what we call centers of excellence, right, or digital hubs that you might use to serve a cluster of markets. Or finally, you might have an in-house team that basically works for the whole team. So this is basically an example of how you will work if you have different markets working with different agencies. That is where you can approach a market and a marketing team in a local country and then say, right, I want to be your SEO agency, or I can provide PPC services to you. If they have that kind of local structure, it's obviously easier for you to get into that client. However, if you realize that your client has a regional structure where they have those digital center of excellences that basically work for the whole Western Europe region, or for the whole Americas region, or APAC, or whatever, then it's obviously very difficult that you might get an opportunity to work with them in SEO or paid search. So try to think, what else can you provide there? Can you provide consultancy services? Can you provide auditing services? Can you provide something else that is not traditional SEO or paid search services? And if you work, or if your client works with a global agency, with a global media partner that basically provides all services across the company, then again, that might change the way that you want to approach that client. And you might think, maybe, again, I can provide some kind of consultancy services, or maybe I can provide some kind of specialist services that a big media company will probably not be able to provide, because they will be very much focusing on the media plans and standardization and making sure that the whole organization works. So there are different avenues. If you understand how your client's agency structure is set up, then you might have an opportunity to really engage in a meaningful conversation with your clients. And then something that I always see when we talk about SEO is that we need to stop talking about SEO, and we need to start talking about marketing, right? And particularly with big brands, I think that is something that is absolutely critical. SEO and paid search are not standalone channels. They are, or they need to be integrated with the rest of the marketing activity. What do I mean by that? Look, a couple of examples that I brought here is many times I've been approached by agencies that said, look, I've got a creative idea that we can do for link building, right? So this is the creative idea, this is the messaging, then it will go well with journalists, and this is blah, 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 blah. And it's just a pure SEO thing. And you know, when I go out of that meeting and I have my meeting with my internal stakeholders, it's about the big marketing campaign that we are going to launch. So that kind of a standalone thing that the agency is proposing is probably not going to fit. I think that it will be much smarter if you think about what is the big campaigns that you are going to launch, and then how can SEO work in that space. So if you are going to launch a big campaign, for instance, the Nike example here, that I brought is what is going to be the web experience, what is going to be the mobile app experience, what is going to be the YouTube experience, and how can I make sure that all that content that you are working so hard to bring to your customers is going to be discoverable. And I haven't seen that many agencies approaching me from that perspective in terms of just tell me what you're working on, and then I can tell you how SEO and paid search will fit onto that campaign, right? I think another good example is the content hubs, right? Many companies, traditional financial companies, insurance companies, etc., they have an issue with SEO because their topic is not that engaging, right? It's not that fun to speak to. And normally what they create are content hubs where they provide a lot of advice to their customers and a lot of content. I think that is one of the examples as well on how can you work with these kind of enterprise clients, providing them services that are more on brand rather than standalone things that if you think about how your client, all the internal selling that I might need to do to get that idea off the ground with legal, with brand marketing, with a lot of different teams that might have something to say about that campaign, it's really very difficult that I can make that fly. Something that I hear a lot as well when we talk about working with enterprise clients is that you need to manage your stakeholders, right? That's a sentence that everyone says. And what does it mean, really? When I was in the agency, I didn't really understand that. And it's like, well, what I mean by that, or what many times we mean by that, is that firstly, try to think how your client is going to be successful internally in the organization. What I mean by that is that help your client to socialize his or her success stories. Many times SEOs, we always focus on what can be fixed. Oh, you know, I do a technical audit and these are all the things that are wrong with your site. That doesn't go that well in a meeting with my marketing directors, right? Because basically there is a lot of negativity on that approach. And I think that SEOs need to be as good as pinpointing the things that can be fixed as making sure that we can demonstrate the impact of the things that we have done well. And I think that sometimes we are a little bit biased on this is what can be improved, this is what can be done, right? And I think that the best way to get support for your projects internally is just to make sure that people can visualize the success story and people can agree on what is the value there. If you demonstrate the value for, if your client can demonstrate the value, then he will get the support that you need in terms of IT resources, in terms of budget, in terms of, you know, removing those obstacles that are basically not allowing you to be successful on SEO, right? Another tip that I will bring to the table when it comes to stakeholder management is how SEOs work with the IT teams, right, in these big corporations, which is always an element of friction, right? Look, my experience is that easier to teach SEO to an engineer than to teach engineering to an SEO. So what I mean by that is that try to get your SEOs to sit with your IT guys, to be part of your IT team. They don't need to report to you. And I think that normally we're, again, going back to the silo thinking, right? So I work on SEO or search, and then everyone on search should work for me, should report directly to me. Why don't you break that down? And why don't you put your SEO guys to work and report to the head of IT or the head of web development or whichever structure you have? that will mean that their KPIs are embedded on the development of the website. And that means it's much easier for them to make an impact because there is a trust component there. The web developers need to trust their SEOs. And the only way that you can build that trust is just sitting together day by day and working together. And I think that is something that sometimes we miss. We tend to create these silos again and again, right? So break them down. And finally, the last tip that I would like to share with you today is that we as SEOs, we need to change a little bit the vocabulary that we use with our clients, the kind of language that we use with our clients. Because many times we talk SEO, as I call it, right? Which means we talk a lot about rankings, keyword rankings. We talk a lot about technical issues that are going on the website. And if you think about who your client is reporting to, depending on how senior your client is, think that whatever seniority he has, the people that he reports to is going to be even more senior, which means that they are probably older, which means that they are probably less exposed to technology. They have less understanding of how these things work, and they are more strategic, and therefore they don't need to get the details, and they don't need to understand really what's wrong on the site. I know that something is wrong, I know that that is a business impact, and therefore that's something that we need to fix as a business. That's as simple as they look at it, right? And many times we just keep insisting on, oh, this is a 100 pages long technical audit of your site. This is the things that need to be fixed. And it's not necessarily easy for your client to build a business case around it. And I think that we need to change the way that we speak. At least you need to ask your client, who is this going to be presented to? Is it going to be presented to senior level management that need to really understand what is the business financial impact of this? Because if you tell me that we need to fix this because we are missing 3% of sales globally because of the time that the page times to load, that will go well on my meeting. If I say that the Google tool, the page speed will tell me that it's 3 seconds slower, that doesn't go well. They don't really know the connection between the business financial impact and what you mean. And I think that nowadays that we have, for instance, in Semrush, you have this integration with Data Studio, with Google Data Studio. I think that's brilliant. You can merge a lot of different metrics together and do something very meaningful for your clients. So rather than talking about keywords, just talk about how your competitors are taking some share of market from you and where you are. And it's not about the keywords, it's about who is dominating that market. It's about how they are taking more and more of your market and whether you react or not to that trend. I think that is the kind of language that we will speak, like how my competitors are doing, what kind of business are we driving, what will be the potential uplift on sales if we do this or we do that. And I think that is something that I will definitely try to think harder on how we communicate that to our clients. So just to summarize all of this, I think there are 5 takeaways. The first one, think more about the experience, the search experience. Search goes beyond paid search and SEO. Find opportunities to sell very specialist services to our clients. Second is learn what kind of agency structure your client has. That will give you clues about how you can engage with them in meaningful ways. Try not to go with the same service, the same sales pitch to every client because it doesn't work really like that. If you don't understand us, it's you're not definitely going to engage with us. Thirdly, stop thinking about SEO, think about marketing. Think about how you are going to integrate SEO, paid search, across those different experiences into a marketing campaign. You have a lot of potential to integrate a lot of channels where people engage and search for your brand. Try to think, rather than coming up with bright new ideas, try to think how you are going to integrate into the campaign that the client is focusing on. when it comes to stakeholder management, try to help your client to socialize success and try to make sure that you get real support from IT teams, particularly creating this kind of matrix organization rather than a very hierarchical and siloed organization. And then finally, when it comes to reporting and when it comes to sharing success, try to think what business people will be looking at rather than SEOs. Try to think, if you were the business owner, what would you be looking at? Will you be looking at sales? Will you be looking at competitors, etc., etc.? That is the kind of language that you need to speak. So that is what I will say has taken me to go to space, and that's my thoughts when it comes to how agencies can work with enterprise clients like us. We get a lot of agencies approaching us. Obviously, the Lego is a big brand, and we have a lot of people approaching us. And I was reflecting on how can I help them, at least not to work with Lego specifically, but when you approach a client, I think that these are the kind of mistakes that you probably can avoid quite easily.
Makes a lot of sense. So, not surprisingly, the chat has been lighting up with a bunch of questions. As you were talking, they were just like, what about this, what about this, what about this? So we're going to get round to a bunch of those questions. Like, when I was listening to that, the big thing that came out for me was more meaningful conversations between the agencies and the clients, and just killing off that cookie cutter approach. Like, do you find that you get a lot of that from agencies?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of my big bugbears. It's almost like, they don't kind of consider what we need so much as this is what we offer. I mean, you mentioned ASO. Very few agencies out there do a good job with ASO, and part of me thinks they shouldn't almost try. We should almost try and get a specialist in, rather than kind of going, we're going to do a bad job of ASO for a company. So we don't do it, and we go to somebody better for it and things like that. But yeah, the amount of tech audits that I've read that just seem to be the same exact kind of copy and basically edited in that box and things like that, rather than kind of going, oh, well, actually, I've looked at your business model, I've looked at what you actually need to do, and I've looked at the weakness. This is what I've kind of come out with. It's just the same carbon copy of the one that they sent the totally different retail client over there and things like that. And I think that that's one of my biggest bugbears, is the technical audit, when you kind of read through and kind of go, yep. Especially when there's about 3 pages, and at the end of it, there's a small box which says, yeah, you're doing that fine, or something like that. And it's kind of going, I literally go through with these things with a red pen, kind of going, don't need to read that bit, don't need to read that bit, don't need to read that bit. And then at the end of it, I kind of go, okay, cool. And the other side of it is that, they don't understand the cost of it. You mentioned sitting with the developers. I actually sit with the developers because most of what I do is work with the product and tech side of it rather than marketing. And often I'm sat there and they're sort of building a new page, and I look at it kind of going, can't release that to live because of this and things like that. And getting an agency to kind of work with us in that way, that would be the dream, where I kind of go, hey, can you have a quick look at this before it goes out? Can you take a glance at this? That would be the absolute perfect thing.
No. So is there a bit of an argument for more integration? So interesting with the cookie cutter stuff, I see that a lot. I don't know if you guys have ever been given a tech audit where someone's not done the find and replace properly in your brand name, and it's someone else's brand name.
Or worse, it's % brand name insert here.
Right, exactly.
Definitely haven't done that myself.
Exactly. All of that good stuff. So integration seems like it's going to be quite a big deal. Do you ever advise any of them to say, well, why don't we actually physically come and be in your office, or is it always remotely? How do you feel about when you're working with agencies, getting them to physically be on site, or does that not really matter to you?
I think it helps. We do office hours with our agency, but we have designed as well an onboarding process for the agencies, which is something that we do. For instance, our headquarters are in Denmark, in a town that is called Billund, and I took my search team there to really experience what the brand is about, to really understand what are the brand values, what is the brand proposition, what is our company mission. So we were to the Legoland parks, we were to the Lego museum, we were to the place where we design the products, we were for them to be exposed to the conversations and meetings that are when we are planning new products to go to the market. So totally not related to SEO, not related to paid search, but really to embed yourself on what are the brand values, how the brand works. And then is when you can realize that, right, these guys are not necessarily thinking about SEO or search. This is the big plan for next year. We need to rethink how we are going to engage with those plans. And I think that helped a lot to us. And that's something that we have come to the realization that we need to do on a regular basis, because obviously our agencies have a quite big turnaround, right? And that's something that we feel that has given us a lot of value. In fact, we were thinking about creating a kind of a search day, right? But I think that at least the onboarding has proven to be very, very useful.
It's a good idea, but part of me, when I've been agency side, I've kind of done the same almost thing. Basically, when we're kind of going to pitch for a new client, I kind of go and actually physically visit one of their shops and actually go and, I remember working with a sort of like a snowboarding fashion brand thing and everything, and we spent quite a lot of time like shopping. We went through the website, did all that kind of thing. We made sure that we did it kind of as a user rather than as a SEO guy. It's amazing how many times you run Screaming Frog or a Semrush or some other tool against it, and you kind of go, these are all the problems, but you don't actually look through the website and kind of get the feel of the actual who the brand is and what they actually want to do and everything. But I mean, you can get it completely wrong by doing that. You kind of go and sort of talk to them that way, and then you go over to them and you hear, actually no, that's not what we do at all, and it's just basically that's a perception that you have from that particular place. So, I mean, Lego being the brand it is, it's quite a different case. You target everybody, from the kids to the adults. I mean, I've got a lot of colleagues with massive Lego toys on their desk, and I kind of think to myself, wait, more time on your hands than I have.
But what I mean is that, something that you need to realize is that as an SEO, sometimes you need to let things go. You cannot win all battles, particularly in a site that is huge and is live, is constantly changing. There are so many people who own content, who publish content across many different channels. And the traditional mindset is like, all right, let's look at all of it and let's try to pinpoint everything that is wrong. And it's like, maybe that's not what we can win. We can win a few battles. That this is strategically what we're focusing on this year. If we succeed here, everything else can maybe wait. Because to your point, I think that we don't necessarily understand the cost of making things happen. And I think that is something that I realized, that the cost of fixing everything is huge. The potential that we can win just with certain areas, certain projects might be good enough for the business this year, right? And I think that that's something that we need to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I sit with the product and tech team. The amount of times where I kind of go, it's a quick fix, it will take you 2 minutes, and they kind of go, actually, it's like 5 days work. Would you like to spend 5 days on this or 5 days on that? And I'm sitting there kind of going, yeah, 5 days on the big stuff. Just get that done, and then I'll talk to you about the little stuff. And it's amazing how often a little thing can be something like uploading an XML file, a web manifest file, or something like that. I'm kind of going, you know what? WordPress, I could do it in 20 minutes, but on a commercial website, it's a very different thing, and basically agencies will often kind of see it as, you run another WordPress site, when it's kind of very, very different, and how many people can be involved, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just been told 1 minute to wrap. I could literally sit and do this forever. In fact, I might just sack off the rest of them and go down the pub with you guys so we can have a proper conversation about this. An amazing session. I'd love to thank you very much. Luis Navarrete, the Head of Global Search Marketing at Lego, and Jerry White, the Technical Lead at Just Eat. To keep the conversation going, please join us on Twitter and use the hashtag Global Marketing Day. And if you're on YouTube, please follow along in the comments, and we'll see you for the next session.